After being reborn, I deliberately avoided any contact with Sophia. She enrolled at Jing City University. I chose to study abroad in the Netherlands. She came to the Netherlands looking for me, so I went on to serve as a war correspondent in many places. Years later, I returned home with my beloved to hold our wedding. She was stopped outside the wedding, her eyes bloodshot. "Why don't you love me anymore?" Sophia and I grew up together from similarly well-off families, the envy-inducing childhood sweethearts everyone admired. Until senior year, when a transfer student named Liam arrived in class. Elegant, aloof, and distant, and instantly captured Sophia's heart. 3 months later, Sophia spoke. "Ethan, let's call off the engagement. I like Liam and only want to be with him." I couldn't accept it and made the matter known to everyone. The consequence was that Sophia was confined at home by her family, and Liam was sent by my family using their connections to a better school in another city. But a month later, Liam, unable to endure the school bullying, jumped off a building and killed himself. When Sophia found out, it was as if her soul died with him. She stopped speaking and refused to eat. Out of love and guilt, I abandoned everything to stay by her side, speaking softly to her every day, feeding her spoonful by spoonful, begging her to keep living. 2 months later, after I had planned out every detail, I took her to the snow-capped mountain she had longed for. When the first ray of sunlight pierced the clouds and lit up the entire peak, a torrent of golden light seemed to reach into the hollowness of her eyes. She slowly turned her head, looked at me after a long time, and a gentle curve lifted the corner of her mouth. "Ethan, thank you for these past so many days." At that moment, I thought I had dispelled her gloom and brought back my girl. Later, we naturally got married and had a pair of adorable children. But when they were 10, I fell gravely ill, paralyzed in bed, unable even to turn over. That very day, she led Liam, who should have been dead, into the house. I didn't expect that he would actually be alive. What shocked me even more was that my 2 children happily threw themselves into that man's arms and crisply called him Dad. I trembled all over in shock, unable to speak. Sophia looked down at me from above, her gaze icy and piercing. "You never had your own children. These 2 are Liam's and my flesh and blood. You were only their nanny for more than 10 years. You ruined Liam's and my life. Your family bullied him with their power and drove him to desperation. I endured my disgust and married you just for today." She took a deep breath and announced coldly, "You won't be alone. Your parents will soon come, keep you company. None of those who tore Liam and me apart will get away." After I died, she indeed used means to send both my parents and her parents to prison and cause them to die one after another in supposed accidents. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day she confessed she liked Liam. The classroom after school was empty, making the voices of the people in front of me sound a bit louder. "Ethan, I really do like Liam." Sophia held Liam's hand. The 2 of them pressed firmly together. I came to my senses and looked at their still childish faces, feeling a bit dazed. My throat tightened. I didn't speak. I was bent down to pick up the backpack that had fallen to the ground. My hand trembled slightly, and I zipped and unzipped it several times but couldn't close it. Sophia looked at me, her tone still cold and hard. "If you want to cry, do it. I won't give in." Usually proud, Liam lowered his head, his tone somewhat humble. "I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have appeared in front of Sophia. Hit me or scold me, I'll accept." I didn't look at him, I just stared at Sophia. She immediately helped Liam up when he tried to bend over. It was I who didn't see my own feelings clearly. She said, "I only ever saw you as a brother." Even having been reborn, I still find it hard to accept these words. She would, without fail, tuck my favorite warm cinnamon roll into her bag every morning on the way to school. When it rained and my beloved shoes got dirty, she would ignore her appearance and crouch down to clean them for me. Even when so many people teased that I was her fiancée all my life, she never once refuted it. In the end, he's just my brother. I nodded and forced a smile. "Fine, we'll call off the engagement now that we're adults. You go be with him. I'll tell my parents." She was taken aback for a moment, as if she hadn't expected me to be so decisive. Don't worry. Her tone softened a bit. I will treat you the same as I did before. She reached out to wipe my tears. I gently dodged away. No need. I wiped my face myself. I'm not feeling well today. I'm heading home first. I practically ran out of the classroom building, and only when I jumped into the car the driver had come to pick me up did my racing heart slowly calm down. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Olivia. Ethan, so, how's it going? Have you thought about what I told you last time? Olivia's clear, eager voice came through the receiver. You're doing so well in your studies. Staying in China to learn that lousy finance stuff is such a waste. Come to the Netherlands to study media. Think of it as keeping me company. Okay. I held the phone, but what appeared before my eyes was my mother's old box of books, neatly filled with the heroic deeds she recorded as a reporter back then. When I was little, I always loved flipping through those notebooks, thinking my mother was the bravest person in the world. Influenced by her, I fell in love with this profession and resolved to study communications. But it was only because Sophia wanted to go to Jingshu University to study finance that I changed my course of study just to be with her. Olivia, I cut off her endless persuasion. My voice was still a little hoarse, but unusually clear. I've decided I'll go. There was an instant silence on the other end of the line. After several seconds, Olivia asked in disbelief, Really? Are you sure? But what about Sophia? Can you let her go? Sophia, huh? I lowered my head and looked at the empty cup in my hand, and suddenly remembered the scene during this morning's break. My throat felt tight and dry, but the school's water dispenser was broken, and I couldn't get any water for a long time. But I saw Sophia carefully hand her cup to Liam and say softly, Drink slowly, be careful, it's hot. But back then I was so busy studying the problems I'd gotten wrong that I didn't think it through. In this moment, she overlapped with the girl in my memories who would be the first to sense my thoughts and immediately get up to fetch water. The unique hair I once had has now been handed over to someone else intact. I spoke to the phone, my voice very soft, yet very firm. She already has someone she likes, so I won't push myself forward. After saying this, I hung up the phone and shoved the empty cup to the deepest part of my backpack. When I got home, I told Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson about studying abroad. They were overjoyed when they heard and immediately began making preparations for my departure. Then they told me that with my grades, as long as I graduated from high school, I could go there to study. 3 months left until graduation. I suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. In just 3 months, I would have no interaction with Sophia. The next morning I got up very early, deliberately missing the time Sophia came to fetch me for school. By the time she came into the classroom, I had finished reciting the first page of vocabulary. Liam, who was following her, was just eating my favorite cinnamon roll. After Sophia and I exchanged looks, she explained somewhat awkwardly, I heard from your driver that you arrived early. I was going to bring it over for you to eat, but Liam was hungry. I calmly lowered my head again and flipped through the book. It's okay. She walked over silently. Don't be angry about it. Should I go buy you a new one? She still thought I was that short-tempered guy, but I'd already lived a whole lifetime. I only shook my head. I'm not angry. It was just a cinnamon roll. I could buy myself several. With that thought, I took out the cinnamon roll I hadn't eaten from the drawer and ate it in front of her. Liam, who had been standing behind her looking rather smug, froze for a moment. Seeing this, Sophia breathed a small sigh of relief. It seems I won't need to bring you cinnamon rolls anymore. Saying that, she pulled a notebook out of her backpack. Your math hasn't been great recently, so I stayed up late organizing the key points. Take it and look it over. Perhaps out of guilt, Sophia's notes this time were much more detailed than before, clear enough that even a fool could understand them. I just handed the notes to Liam and smiled gently. I think you need it more. Liam's expression darkened immediately. Ethan, are you provoking me? I know my math isn't as good as yours, but I also know Sophia has been taking math notes for you. Now that you're handing the notes to me in front of her, it's really because you're resentful that she and I are on the same page, isn't it? As he spoke, his whole body trembled, as if I had humiliated him. I didn't expect his expression to change so quickly. Sophia walked over, picked Liam up, and held him to comfort him. I know you're feeling upset, but don't make things hard for Liam. He cares about his pride. I almost laughed out loud. How had I never noticed before that Sophia could be so blind and oblivious? Liam shook his head repeatedly while holding her. Don't argue with Ethan on my account. This was indeed my fault. Maybe my insecurity made me misunderstand Ethan. Sorry. Before Sophia frowned and could speak, I decisively spoke up. It was my fault. I didn't realize it would hurt you emotionally. Sophia was stunned. Even Liam opened his mouth, then swallowed the rest of his words, completely unprepared for me to say that. I looked at Sophia and shoved the notebook in her hand. So don't come looking for me anymore, whether it's for something important or not, so that Liam won't feel uncomfortable. Saying that, I returned to my seat and threw myself back into studying. Only Sophia stood there, unable to recover for a long time. Perhaps my words had worked. Sophia never looked for me again. But only a few days later, she persistently handed me her notes and occasionally stubbornly insisted on teaching me how to solve problems. Aren't you going to study finance with me at Jing City University? Your math is still a bit lacking. I unusually did not argue back. That's true. In her world, I'm still the guy who would follow her without hesitation, no matter what she does. Perhaps in this new world, even if she and I can't become husband and wife, we could at least end up as ordinary friends. But every time I looked up from studying tiredly, I could always see Liam glaring at me indignantly. Until 1 month before the college entrance exam. I had just stepped out of the school gate, planning to go to the bookstore across the street to buy some reference books, when I saw Sophia dragging Liam, pale-faced and bleeding, all the way toward me. Before I could react, she had already planted herself in front of me. Ethan, her voice was loaded with a fierce, suppressed anger. You actually hate him so much that you hired someone outside school to beat him up? I froze, looking at Liam in her arms. Half his face was swollen, and the way he looked at me was full of fear and indignation. I don't know what you're talking about. I frowned, a sense of absurdity welling up in me. Don't know. Sophia sneered, and the surrounding classmates turned to look. When those thugs kicked him, they explicitly said Mr. Ethan told them to teach him a lesson. Who else besides you would use such low tactics? So your good temper was all an act. I looked at Liam. He was trembling. Ethan, if you've got the guts, let's have a fair fight instead of playing these low, dirty tricks. You're a man too, and I really despise you. As he spoke, his body shook even more violently. I didn't do it. I looked at Sophia, my tone calm. I'm not stooping to using such methods. Evidence? Who would believe it? Sophia couldn't hear any of it. Liam's expression and words had completely blinded her. She paused, as if making up her mind, her tone cold, speaking word by word. Liam, if he hits you, you go and hit him back. Those words exploded in my ears like thunder. I looked at Sophia in disbelief. She actually wanted Liam to hit me? My parents never even hit me once growing up. Liam also seemed startled, shaking his head. Sophia, go! She shoved Liam, gently pushing him in front of me, her hands locking onto me tightly. Whatever he owes you, with me here, no one will touch you again. More and more classmates gathered around, their whispers buzzing like mosquitoes. Under everyone's eyes, Liam looked even more helpless and fragile. He looked at me, his hand trembling slightly as he raised it. He seemed to have finally made up his mind, closed his eyes, and swung his hand sharply. Smack! A crisp smack rang out. A burning pain spread across my face. It was a heavy blow, making my ears ring. I tried to struggle, but Sophia's grip on my flesh warned me. She froze for a moment when she saw my nose bleeding as well. She didn't seem to expect Liam to have so much strength. Her eyes flickered for a moment. But when she saw Liam standing there trembling after hitting the man, she immediately let me go and hugged him tightly. It's fine. She looked at me. If you apologize properly now, I'm still willing to tutor you so you can attend Jing City University with me. You've always wanted us to move out, right? Then we could buy a place near the school. I looked at Sophia and suddenly laughed. Jingshi University? You can still take Liam. I'm not going. Me? Be your nanny like in my past life? Dream on. Thinking this, I rushed forward and, in front of Sophia, slammed a hard slap across Liam's face, staring at them coldly. Remember this. This is what I did. The slap, delivered with all the force of my anger, left Liam's cheeks swollen and puffed up, and he trembled uncontrollably from the pain. Ethan, you... Sophia's voice carried an incredulous fury. How dare you? So lazy you won't even pretend in front of me, huh? I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. Pretend what? I'm just plainly, uprightly hitting you in front of your face. Since I'll be accused, of course I'll make it real. I bent over, picked up my backpack, dusted it off, and slung it over my shoulder. Sophia, take your Liam and stay away from me. I looked her in the eyes and said each word clearly. You make me sick just by seeing you. After saying that, I turned and left. Sophia, behind me, was furious. If you have the guts, really don't contact me. Otherwise, once you go to Jing City University, I won't be responsible for you. Who cares? I ignored it. People around me silently made way, their complicated gazes falling on me, but I didn't care. Only since that day, my relationship with Sophia has become much more awkward. Even sitting in the same classroom, I treated her like she was invisible. She tried several times to talk to me, but I ignored her outright. The cinnamon roll she offered in peace, I publicly threw into the trash. The confusion and irritation in her eyes deepened, and she continued to ignore me. But none of this was any longer my concern. The Gaokao was finally over. After handing in a last exam paper and putting down my pen, I walked out of the examination hall into bright sunlight. I took a deep breath. Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson were waiting for me outside, their faces wearing relaxed and proud smiles. How did the exam go? Mrs. Johnson put her arm around my shoulders. It's fine. I smiled, but what I was thinking about was my study abroad application. Even before the college entrance exam, I had already been accepted by a university in the Netherlands. As soon as I submitted my exam results, I could officially receive a notice and go to the Netherlands to study. That's good. Let's go home. Your mother cooked so many delicious things for you. Back home, I began to pack and prepare to go abroad. On the desk sat an exquisite box containing the little trinket Sophia had given me over the years, and a thick stack of letters she had written to me. I opened the box, glanced inside, then without hesitation picked it up, walked to the trash bin in the yard, and tossed the whole thing in. Ethan, Mrs. Johnson stood at the door, looking at me with some surprise. Useless stuff, it should be thrown away. I clapped my hands, speaking lightly. Mrs. Johnson walks over and gives me a gentle hug. Let it go, let's look ahead. The days before leaving the country passed in a blur. Meeting with friends, spending time with family, packing my luggage. I deliberately blocked out all news about Sophia and Liam. All I knew was that Sophia had tried to contact me many times, but each attempt failed. On the day she learned I had thrown away the gifts and letters she gave me, her mother, Mrs. Taylor, said she cried for a long time. She said she didn't know why I had become like this, that she regretted it. What she regretted, I didn't know, and I didn't want to find out. All I had was excitement for my new life. The airport was teeming with people. I arranged the checked luggage and said my final goodbyes to Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson. When you get over there, be sure to video call every day. Mrs. Johnson cautioned me with red-rimmed eyes. I know, Mom. Don't worry. If you don't have enough money, tell Dad. Don't make yourself suffer. Mr. Johnson patted my shoulder hard. I agreed one by one and said many more things. Just as I was going through security, a figure ran over, out of breath, but was stopped outside the checkpoint. Ethan. She looked like she had been running hard. Her hair was a little messy. Weren't you supposed to go to Jing City University with me? Why did your parents say you went abroad to study? Where exactly are you going? Her tone carried an unmistakable panic. But I ignored her, letting her cry and shout behind me until the security guards dragged her away. As the plane took off, I watched the city grow smaller outside the window, feeling completely calm. I knew that my new life as Ethan had finally truly begun. Life in the Netherlands was busy and fulfilling. The unfamiliar surroundings, heavy coursework, and classmates from all over the world left me overwhelmed, but they also made me grow quickly. I worked hard on the language, spent time in the library, and joined group discussions. My days were packed. Occasionally late at night, I would think about the past, but that sting had been fading more and more. The more I learned, the more convinced I became that I wanted to be a journalist. But unlike my mother, I wanted to be a war correspondent, exposing the world's ugliness. Until one ordinary weekend, a few classmates and I were leaving the library, about to head to a cafe in the city center. Amsterdam's sky was always gray. The wind carried the canal's moisture against my face, a little chilly. We had just reached the cafe entrance when a figure so familiar it made my heart stop suddenly intruded into my sight. She stood across the street, wearing a black long dress, thin and haggard, nothing like the confident person she used to be. It was Sophia. How is she here? She crossed the road and came straight toward me, ignoring all my classmates around me, her gaze fixed on me. Ethan. She stopped in front of me, her voice dry. I finally found you. My classmates around me watched us curiously. I looked at this unexpected visitor before me. After a lifetime apart, across 1,000 mountains and seas, she had somehow appeared again. What are you here for? My voice was as cold as ice. I came to find you. She stared at me intently, as if I were her only light. I haven't been well these past 2 years since you left. I tried many ways to find you, but couldn't. It was finally a classmate who came to the Netherlands and told me you were here. Only then did I realize that my sympathy for Liam was just an emotional impulse. The one I love is you. Will you come back with me? Just as she was about to touch me, a figure calmly stepped between her and me. Friend, please refrain from groping. A clear female voice sounded. I looked up and saw it was a senior Chinese student from the same department, Chloe. She was 2 years ahead of me and took good care of us Chinese international students at school. Her brows knitted slightly as she looked at Sophia. Though petite, her presence exuded a steady, unassailable aura. Sophia's hand froze in midair. She stared at the suddenly appeared Chloe, her gaze instantly sharpening with hostility. Who are you? She asked in an unfriendly tone. Chloe first tilted her head slightly and asked me gently, Ethan, do you need any help? I hadn't opened my mouth before Sophia interrupted. Ethan. Sophia repeated the name, staring fixedly at Chloe, then suddenly looked at me. Her eyes instantly reddened, filled with a betrayed anger and disbelief. Ethan, who is she? You came to this godforsaken place for her. Sophia. I cut her off sharply, completely enraged by her absurd suspicions. Do you think everyone is like you? Every decision I make is for myself. Senior Chloe is just my friend, but so what? You and I have been over for a long time. Well, why do you have to question me here? Right? Sophia seemed completely ignited. She shoved Chloe away and grabbed my wrist with terrifying force. We grew up together. We agreed we would get married. Ethan, how could you? Let go of him. Once Chloe steadied herself, she immediately stepped forward and grabbed Sophia's wrist. Please let go at once. This is between us. You, an outsider, have no right to interfere. Sophia shouted to Chloe in a low voice, still holding my hand and refusing to let go. A few onlookers had gathered around, pointing and whispering. A sharp pain shot through my wrist, but what disgusted me more was her reckless clinging. I looked at Sophia's eyes, bloodshot and full of obsession and pain. In my previous life, she had looked at me coldly as I lay paralyzed in bed, and that indifferent face overlapped with the twisted expression before me. I suddenly stopped struggling and, using all my strength, lifted my other free hand. Smack! A crisp, resounding slap landed hard on Sophia's face. She froze, and the grip with which she was holding my wrist unconsciously loosened. The air seemed to freeze. I shook her hand off and, word by word, spoke to her with absolute clarity. Sophia, this slap is to wake you up. Look at what you are now. A lunatic. The Sophia I used to love has long been dead. She died when you humiliated me for Liam. My life now is good. School, friends, dreams. There's no place for you here. There never was, there isn't now, and there never will be. I bent down, helped Chloe pick up the scattered books, then said the final words to Sophia, who was still standing there stunned. Don't appear in front of me again. After saying that, I looked toward Chloe. Senior, let's go. Such a familiar figure. 2 years ago, Sophia watched Ethan leave like this too, with no way to stop him. Airport security held her with strong arms, and around them travelers looked on with surprise and a hint of contempt. Sophia struggled, screaming that name until her voice was hoarse, but could only watch the familiar figure disappear at the end of the corridor, without a trace of hesitation. Ethan! She was finally thrown out of the airport terminal, standing dazed and forlorn on the bustling road. The early autumn sun in Sioux City was still warm, but on her it felt only bone-chilling cold. She really was gone. Later, when she went to register at Jing City University, it was because her family had forced her to go. Mrs. Taylor slapped her across the face. Pull yourself together. You were the one who broke off the engagement and personally sent her to the Netherlands. No matter how much you make a fuss now, it's useless. Hurry up and study properly. Jing City University, the school she had dreamed of, now couldn't hold any interest for her. After only a month, she took a leave of absence. Her family was furious when they found out. Mr. Taylor was so angry he almost cut ties with her. But she couldn't care about that. A Beijing without Ethan felt too vast, so vast it made her anxious. She lived in a small apartment rented off campus. She drew the heavy curtains, cutting herself off from the outside world. The room reeked of instant noodles mixed with stale smoke and alcohol. Empty bottles were scattered on the floor, and the ashtray was piled high with cigarette butts. She began to have hallucinations. Sometimes in the dead of night, she would suddenly hear the faint click of a key turning in the lock, followed by that crisp, familiar voice. Sophia, I'm home. I brought you a late-night snack. She would spring up from the couch, stumble to the door, and fling it open, only to find the empty stairwell and the dim hallway light. Fair point. Ethan had never been to Jingshi University and didn't know she lived here. But she insisted that he should be here. Then the two of them curled up on the sofa, sharing the same meal. Sometimes in the early morning, half asleep, she felt someone beside her, bearing that faint woody scent he often used. She reached out to embrace him, but only grabbed a handful of cold air. Why? Why? Even though he had never been here, was everything around her filled with his presence? The most extreme time was when she was washing her face in front of the bathroom mirror. What was reflected in the mirror was not her haggard face, but Ethan's. He was standing right behind her, his upper body bare, tilting his head to smile at her, his eyes sparkling, full of affection. She spun around suddenly. There was no one behind her. When she looked back, the mirror held only her own terrified, distorted face. Ethan, come back. She muttered to the empty room, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing. Her number had long been blocked in his phone, and she had no way of learning any new contact information for him. I know I was wrong. I really know it. What does Liam matter? I was just momentarily confused. Ethan, I would die without you. Her words were met only with endless silence. She wanted to see Liam because she had learned the truth from back then. It was Liam who deliberately set it up to make Sophia hate Ethan. The boy she once thought needed her full protection now looked revolting to her. It's all because of you. She tore into the panicked Liam with curses, her gaze terrifying. Liam shouted that she was crazy and fled in disarray. But he was soon caught by people Sophia had sent and was slapped many times. She watched his struggling figure, feeling only a deeper hollowness inside. Yes, from the moment Ethan turned and walked away, she had already gone mad. Those living death days only began to improve when a high school classmate who had returned from a trip to the Netherlands casually posted a photo of a street in Amsterdam to their social feed. That was when things started to get better. In the corner of the photo, a radiant, smiling profile cut straight through her world. It's Ethan. In almost an instant, the hallucinations that had been tormenting her receded like a tide. She stared fixedly at that blurred profile, her dry eye sockets burning hot again. She found him. She finally found him. She immediately booked the earliest flight to the Netherlands. On the plane, she kept imagining their reunion over and over. She would tell him she was wrong, that she regretted it, that she couldn't live without him. She believed that as long as she showed up, as long as she was sincere enough, Ethan, who had followed her since childhood and had always had eyes only for her, would surely soften. When she finally stood at the door of that cafe and truly saw him alive and in the flesh, the heart that had been adrift and on the verge of collapse strangely settled back into place. He was more handsome, the awkwardness of youth gone, replaced by a calm, confident air. Standing there, he seemed to be glowing. She almost greedily stared at him, ignoring everything around her, until that woman called Chloe appeared. The woman stood beside him, posture familiar, expression concerned. But when Ethan looked at her, his gaze was nothing but an aloof indifference that pushed everyone away. Yet when he looked at that Chloe, there would be a momentary relaxation. Jealousy and rage instantly overwhelmed the fragile sanity she had painstakingly rebuilt. How could he let someone else get so close? How could he look at her with that expression? How could he truly not want her anymore? Entanglement, tugging, questioning, and then that resounding slap. The burning pain on her cheek was nothing compared to the sting brought by the unmistakable finality in his eyes. His words were like a blade tempered with ice, precisely piercing the most fragile spot in her heart. The Sophia I used to love died long ago. Don't appear in front of me again. He left, walking away side by side with that Chloe, without looking back at her once. Sophia froze where she stood, ears buzzing. She no longer registered the strange looks and whispering around her. The world blurred again, plunging into darkness. After that, Sophia truly never appeared in my life again. I heard she was quickly forcibly taken back to her country by her family. The details no longer concerned me. My life was filled with things broader and heavier, yet also full of meaning. As I wished, I became a war correspondent. After graduating from the Netherlands with excellent grades, I volunteered to go to the corners of the world filled with smoke and cries. On Syria's shattered streets, I walked alongside civilians fleeing in panic. In the dry mountain winds of Afghanistan, I recorded the soldiers' exhausted and bewildered faces. In the snow-covered trenches of Ukraine, I listened to young soldiers longing for home. I have seen too many hollow gazes after losing everything. Trembling hands searching for loved ones among the ruins. Wildflowers that still strive to bloom amid the gunfire. And the faint glimmers of humanity that still shine in utter despair. These experiences have washed away the last traces of my boyhood. My skin has been roughened by wind and sand, but my gaze has grown ever clearer and more resolute. I report the truth, convey suffering, and also record resilience. Every time I return from a mission at the edge of life and death, I cherish life and ordinary happiness all the more. Everything overlapped with the notes I saw at my mother's back then. I told all of this to Mrs. Johnson. She was very proud of me. Throughout the process, Chloe was always behind me. She eventually became a Medicines Sans Frontières doctor, and our paths often miraculously crossed in different countries. Sometimes it was in a makeshift shelter. She had just been treating displaced refugees and would look up to see me, travel-worn, carrying a camera as I came in. Sometimes it was at a border checkpoint, where we'd brush past each other, only a brief exchange of glances, a nod to show we were both all right, and then we'd rush back to our respective duties. Between us, it was more like two souls moving in a similar direction through a vast sea of people, naturally drawn closer. On a starry night, we huddled in a crude tent sharing a small bottle of liquor to keep warm. She looked at the new scrape on my arm and said softly, "Ethan, when all this is over, let's find a place to settle down." I looked at her profile lit by the flames, feeling a peace and steadiness I had never known. "Okay," I said. A decade on the battlefield earned me a reputation, and brought me face to face with death more than once. At 30, I felt an inner calling. It was time to begin a new chapter in life. Chloe and I returned to our home country. We settled in a quiet seaside town. I was hired as an international news consultant by a well-known media outlet, and Chloe opened her own private clinic. We decided to get married. The wedding invited only our closest family and a few lifelong friends, and it was held on an island. On the wedding day, the sun shone brightly and the sea breeze was gentle. Chloe wore a simple white satin gown, her hair loosely pinned up. Chloe looked at me, the tenderness and certainty in her eyes speaking louder than 1,000 words. Without any elaborate ceremony, we exchanged simple vows in the presence of friends and family. Just as the officiant declared the ceremony complete, and I bowed my head to kiss Chloe, a commotion rose from the edge of the courtyard, accompanied by a hoarse, frenzied cry. "Ethan, you're getting married? How can you marry someone else?" Everyone's attention was drawn over. I saw that figure being stopped by the security guards at the door. It was Sophia. She was almost unrecognizable to me. Her once beautiful figure was hunched, hair disheveled, clothes in tatters, eyes cloudy and wild. She stared at me intently. "Who is that?" Chloe frowned slightly and instinctively placed me behind her, not recognizing me. "A person who has long ceased to matter." I answered calmly, with no ripples in my heart, only a faint thread of compassion. Sophia tried to break through the security's hold, her voice shrill. "Ethan, I was wrong. I regret it. See, I drove Liam away. I drove him all away. I've been waiting for you to come back. Our home, I've kept it. Won't you come back?" She spoke incoherently, sometimes weeping bitterly, sometimes cackling monstrously, clearly no longer of sound mind. Those in the know whispered pityingly that ever since she returned from the Netherlands, she had never recovered. Her career ruined, her family fortune swindled away, and with long-term drinking her sanity had completely collapsed. I walked over to her and stopped a few paces away. The security guard watched me nervously. When Sophia saw me approach, her eyes suddenly lit up with hopeful light, and she reached out her hand like a child. "Ethan, come home with me. Let's go home." I looked at those eyes that had once been clear but now contained only madness and obsession, and I seemed to see my past life's helpless, despairing self lying on the sickbed. Karma and reincarnation. So this is how it turns out. I spoke slowly, my voice registering clearly in her ears. "Sophia, look closely. I am Ethan, but I am no longer the Ethan you knew." I paused, glanced back at Chloe, who stood where she was with a calm gaze fixed on me, then turned back and spoke the final words to Sophia. "Today is my wedding. I married the person I love. I have let go. You should let yourself go too." After speaking, I stopped looking at the momentary collapse of her expression and turned to walk toward my wife. Chloe reached out her hand to me. I smiled and placed my hand in her palm, warm and steady. She squeezed tightly and asked in a low voice, "Are you okay?" "It's fine." I shook my head and tilted my face up to feel the sea breeze and the sunshine. "Let's go inside. The guests are still waiting." Behind me, Sophia's desperate wails, as if from some distant world, were finally drowned out by the sound of the waves and the gentle music. "George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?" I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. "How is that bad news?" Frank chuckled. "Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist." "What do you mean?" "A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost." The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. "Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed." "Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this. Frank handed me a note with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. George, it's been a long time. She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. Who are you? I struggled to remain calm. I'm Mary, your wife. She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. Impossible. Mary is already dead. She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall, an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. Aren't you allergic to mangoes? I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing. I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. When did you start smoking? I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor. I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level. Frank's eyes widened. You mean, she's not Mary? I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up. 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. Mary is an only child. We all know that. I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. "George, Mary is going to have a baby," my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that?" I managed to ask. "Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months." My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. "It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life." My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. "Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here?" I probed cautiously. "For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience," my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the 3rd day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. "Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious," Frank frowned. "Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly?" "It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after." The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. "They're after your painting," the private detective asserted, "and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hired to win your trust." I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. "It's taking too long," Tom said irritably. "How much longer until he sells the painting?" "Don't worry," she soothed him. "I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money." "You're really pregnant?" "That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly. Does Annie know the truth? She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help. I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. You don't actually have feelings for George, do you? Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word. Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it. Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. This is a surprise I prepared for you, I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. To celebrate the new life we're about to begin. She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. It's beautiful, thank you. She smiled as she prepared to put it on. Wait, I stopped her. Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back? She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. What's wrong? Don't you like it? I asked, feigning ignorance. No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved. She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace. I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, after all, this is your final design. Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light. On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in Eternity and asking me about the auction details. The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon, I replied with a smile. This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it. Mary immediately chimed in. Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future. I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of Eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting. Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up Mary. This is my wife, Mary. I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box, the officer said over the phone. Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence. A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. Are you sure you want to do this? Frank frowned. That blood amber is priceless. That's exactly why, I said firmly. Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish. For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and then laid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only a year and a half. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. The case is finally over, Frank said. Are you planning to exhibit your painting? Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale. The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. Mr. George, a stranger's voice called from behind. Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared. He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. And you are? I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area, she explained with a smile. I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit. Thank you. I nodded. I'll be leaving soon. She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive. It's blood amber, I explained, a very rare gemstone. I know, she said softly, top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare. I looked at her in surprise. You know a lot about jewelry? She smiled. I studied jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here. For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting? She asked. My wife, I replied. She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer. I'm very sorry, she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently. She nodded thoughtfully. Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her. For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. Sorry, I have to continue my rounds. She glanced at her watch. See you tomorrow, Mr. George. See you tomorrow, I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. Not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The Pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, The Pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall. But there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. "Mr. George, thank you for coming." The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. "Did you send the email?" I asked directly. She nodded. "There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me?" We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. "Who are you, really?" The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. "My name is Nicole." She looked me straight in the eye. "I'm Mary's student." This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. "I took her advanced design class the year before she passed," Nicole explained. "Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime." "That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much," I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. "These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers." I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. "Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project," Nicole continued. "The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time." "George's special birthday project?" I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. "You know about it?" "I only found out recently." I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. "I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you," Nicole said with a smile. "Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber?" Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. "Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things." She took a letter out of her bag. "This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it." I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. "I hope you won't blame me." I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. "Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary." The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. "Thank you," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "This means a lot to me." "You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request," Nicole said with a smile. "Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with." "What is it?" "I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established," she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, "In memory, dedicated to teacher Mary." Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines, with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. "New friend?" he asked me quietly. "Mary's student," I explained simply. "Very talented." Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the 3 of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. "Mr. George," Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I've always had a question I wanted to ask you." "What is it?" "After you finished the pursuit, what are you planning to create next?" The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since the pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. "I haven't decided yet," I answered honestly. "It might take some time to find a new direction." Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. "Maybe," Nicole said softly, "you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design? Like in The Pursuit." but taking it even further. I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. You mean, creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry? Exactly. Nicole said excitedly, your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect. The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, I have to confess something. I looked at her in confusion. I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you, she said candidly. I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion. Her sincerity moved me. You're already on that path, and you're doing very well. Then, may I consult you often? She asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, See, I knew you would find a new direction. When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. Am I really up to the task? She asked me in the studio. You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone, I assured her. That's exactly what I need. In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it. At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's all right, I said with a smile. I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself. Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, Professor George, may I ask you a personal question? What is it? When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, how did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole. I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. George, you look much more spirited lately, Frank remarked at a gathering. It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life. Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating. Nicole's a good girl, Frank said meaningfully. Talented, and she really understands you. I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of three-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "In a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." "Perhaps," I said. "Everyone has the possibility of being reborn." On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being." "It was your philosophy that guided us, teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. "I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger." In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. Which offer are you planning to accept? One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. To be honest, I'm still hesitating. Nicole paused her work. These are all great opportunities, but what? But I want to keep working with you. She looked straight into my eyes. Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it? Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. You should consider your own career development, I said tactfully. These opportunities are very rare for young designers. Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. I understand. In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. Congratulations, I said sincerely. It's a very good choice. Thank you, she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. I think this is the best arrangement for both of us. Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. Are you really going to just let her go like this? What do you mean? I pretended not to understand. Don't play dumb, man, Frank said bluntly. You have feelings for her. That's obvious. That's just professional rapport, I argued. Is that so? Frank looked at me meaningfully. Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France? I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. I know what you're worried about, Frank lowered his voice. You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you? I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. Mary has been gone for 3 years now. Frank gently patted my shoulder. She would want you to be happy. After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months. Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. This experience has meant so much to me. I should be thanking you, I said sincerely. Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed. We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. My flight is the morning after tomorrow, Nicole finally said. I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly. I tried to make my voice sound light. Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there. She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity. What is it? I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works. She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. I didn't know that, I said in surprise. I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion. Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you. I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond, she gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary. Tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was. I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, we found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. Mary, the exhibition was a great success today, I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. Nicole's designs were admired by everyone, just as you once predicted. Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me. A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, I've been thinking about something. What is it? If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met. Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. Perhaps that's the irony of fate, I said softly. Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings. When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path. Luna, I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, Her skills have improved a lot. She truly is talent. Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars, I sighed. Everyone deserves a second chance. That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. You mean? A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration, she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. Love. I finished her sentence. No matter what form it takes. Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration. Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project. We have time, she smiled, holding my hand. We have so much time. In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future, I whispered softly. Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life? Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. I will. Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said. Love does not disappear. It merely changes its form. Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. No matter when or where, Nicole said softly, we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together. Yes, I squeezed her hand, and we will always cherish this gift. In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.